You're listening to Docs Outside the Box, episode 29.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry. You're getting real life insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
This episode is brought to you by Set for Life Insurance. Protect yourself against life setbacks with Set for Life Insurance. Set for Life Insurance gets you disability and life insurance at a reduced cost with their exclusive discounts. Now that's why I use them. Visit www.setforlifeinsurance.com and tell them Dr. Darko sent you. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I am the Doc Outside the Box, Dr. Nee Darko, host of this podcast. And we're inspiring doctors around the world to live outside the box by bringing you stories of ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you all for downloading the previous episode. I went back to the download numbers for the past week, and you all were really feeling that episode 28 with Physician on Fire. I didn't know that it was going to be such a popular podcast, but apparently you all really, really liked it. So thank you all for supporting it. Thank you all for sharing it. Thank you all for retweeting and everything. And, it's much appreciated. And as, I always say, this show is very interactive, and that was a suggestion from many of you all who were interested in getting to know the perspective and the thoughts of Physician on Fire. So I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm glad that you all enjoyed it. So on this episode, we're going to pivot a little bit and take things in a little bit of a different direction. My earlier podcast, at least the first 20, maybe even more than that, were focused on physicians who are really, or at least have a national brand or a brand that is on the national stage, right? People who are on national TV, people who are on YouTube, people who are on social media, just doing their thing on a national level. And that's great. I think that obviously you all enjoyed those podcasts based off of the download numbers. But what about people who are not interested in being on the national limelight? What about people who want to live outside the box, but want to do things in a way that, is very important to them, but is not on such a global scale? And I think that's just as important as the opposite side, which is, being a media mogul and so forth. So, people have written to me and have said, when are you going to have some people who are doing some really cool things, but just, they're living outside the box, but, it's a little bit more attainable and a little bit more realistic. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I think that makes a lot of sense, right? So I decided to reach out to my next guest, and my next guest is actually Dr. Vicki Chan. She is an ophthalmologist, practices out in Los Angeles, California, and she is going to talk today about network marketing, okay? And network marketing is basically a type of business opportunity that's becoming really popular among a lot of people. And some of you, or a lot of you, are already familiar with companies that do network marketing like Avon, Mary Kay Cosmetics, and so forth. But, there's more and more companies that are starting to sell their products in this fashion, like Tupperware, and obviously with our next guest, Rodan+Fields. And she talks about the process and how she discovered network marketing and how, now she is doing just as well from a financial standpoint with network marketing as she does with obviously what she was primarily trained to do, which is to become an ophthalmologist. So this is going to be a really interesting one. But just a brief history about Dr. Vicki Chan. She was born in Los Angeles, California, born and raised, and she went to undergrad at the University of Southern California and then went over to Baltimore and met someone that you all are familiar with, episode 13, Dr. Peter Kim. And his episode was an anesthesiologist taking the pain away from the home buying experience. So they both met and fell in love, and the rest is history, so to speak. He went ahead and started Curbside Real Estate, and she talks about the process of, being a go-getter, being a type A personality, and the culmination of her training being an ophthalmologist and having a lot of pride in that. But what happens when there's more that you want, right? She, obviously they both got married. They have children. She has a very fulfilling career, but what happens when you want more? And she's going to take us through the process of that thought process of wanting more and how she stumbled onto network marketing and how now it is a very lucrative career for her. So things that things that I want you to pick up from this episode are how she struggled to go from obviously a full-time ophthalmologist to a part-time ophthalmologist, and all the struggle and the angst and the thoughts that she put on herself and how she was able to manage that and shift to part-time work, how her husband's skincare business led her to Rodan+Fields as a business opportunity. Other things I want you to pick up is the definition of network or direct marketing. And some cool things that we're going to talk about are the skills that people can take from medicine that can actually make them succeed in network marketing, right? Those are some interesting things to take from that. And then why network marketing has allowed her to love practicing medicine even more. And then also the typical day of a network marketer. I think those who are interested in this want to understand, what does it take? How, what time do you start your day and what time do you end your day and what kind of recruiting do you need to do? It's really important. And always you're going to learn how she answers #I'm not just a doc. So look, this is going to be a good one. Let's get to the interview. Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I'm excited to bring to you Dr. Vicki Chan all the way from Cali. Dr. Chan, welcome to Docs Outside the Box.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to interviewing you for quite some time. What's the weather like over there?
It's beautiful. It's
80s,
gorgeous.
80s, 90s?
Not quite 80s. It's on the chillier side for Los Angeles, like in the 70s, but it's acceptable.
No rain?
I'll take it. No rain.
No rain. Nope. All right, cool. Can't knock it. But anyway, we are not here to talk about the weather. We're here to learn more about the amazing things that you're doing outside of medicine. So before we get too much into the nitty-gritty of things, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, so as you said, I'm in Los Angeles, California. I actually was born and raised here, so I'm definitely used to the weather. I am an ophthalmologist by trade. I did my undergrad at USC, so University of Southern California.
So
I went out. I am.
Okay.
I am.
All right.
I went out to Johns Hopkins for my medical school out east, so I know what cold feels like, and I definitely prefer this over here. And then I came back to UCLA for my ophthalmology residency and my glaucoma fellowship.
And I think you met a special someone out there, right?
I did. So my husband, Peter Kim, is an anesthesiologist, and we met out in Baltimore. That's where he's from. And I dragged him to Los Angeles.
Is that the way I described it on the show?
Is it?
I think I did when I described him on the show last time. So for those who don't know, Dr. Kim, Peter Kim, he is the CEO, founder of Curbside Real Estate. He's episode 13. Take a listen. And that's the anesthesiologist taking the pain away from the home buying experience. But him and Dr. Chan are married and they are located in California. But it sounds as though you guys met in the cold Baltimore weather, winter weather, and then you guys went out to California.
Yes.
And the rest is history, I guess.
The rest is history. We have 2 kids now. So a boy and a girl. Our son is almost 1. It's crazy.
Awesome. And for some reason it's quiet in the background. What's up with that?
So our daughter's in school, and my son, the nanny took him out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. All right. So it's just me and you then.
Exactly. I cleared my schedule for you.
All right. That's how it goes. All right. Cool. I'll take it. So do you currently still practice medicine right now?
I do. So currently I work 3 half days. I'm an ophthalmologist, so I do clinic and OR. And then the rest of the time I'm, taking care of the family, taking care of the house, taking care of Peter, right? And then, running my, network marketing skincare business.
So that's the reason why I wanted to bring you on the show because you started off full time as
Yes.
an ophthalmologist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of transitioned to now where is this considered where you're working 3 times a week or 3 days a week? Is that considered part time or is that like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
part-time. Yes.
So
So-
let's take a couple of steps back. So tell us about your practice before network marketing, and that's with Rodan+Fields skincare, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Take us a couple of steps back before then, even before you had kids with Dr. Kim. What was it like? What was your usual day like?
Yeah. So, when I graduated medical school, right, I was trying to be smart, right? I was kind of looking at what I thought my life was going to be. I wanted to be a mother. I knew we wanted a family. So when I graduated fellowship training, I, looked for a job. I did all the typical stuff, resumes, things like that. And I settled on, I had a few options. You can do like a full-time salaried position. You can work for a university. You can do per diem, independent contractor. There are all these options out there. I chose to pick up a per diem, independent contracting job, which essentially is you get paid by hour, right? Or you get paid by day.
Okay.
And I did that because I felt like it was more flexible, right? So, in the future, if I decided to have kids and I could always cut back, like I felt like that was a good compromise. But I did pick up enough shifts that I was full-time. So coming out of training, I did work full-time. I picked up all these shifts. I worked essentially 5 days a week. And that's just what I did.
Okay.
And then when we had our daughter, I, took my maternity leave, but it's like this mindset of like work, work, work. I don't know where that comes from. I think when you're in medical school, you see everyone else working around you. You're in academic medicine, right? You see everybody working around you and you just assume full time is just the way it was going to be.
Right.
And so even though I chose to do this per diem setup, I took like 8 weeks maternity leave. It was crazy. It's relatively short when I talk to my friends, and I went right back full time. And then I hired a nanny. Like, I don't even know what happened. The whole point of this whole thing was that I wanted to have flexibility, but it turned out that, I went right back full time. And I think I felt some pressure, cause I had my colleagues and my patients all counting on me. And so I rushed back and, I didn't want to let my patients down. I didn't want to let my colleagues, I felt bad for them, seeing my patients. And so I rushed right back full time.
Now, you said that you felt some pressure from your work, from your job. Did you ever get any words or did you feel a certain way when, you would tell your coworkers that you planned on, maybe taking a little bit longer than 8 weeks, or did that discussion ever come up with your coworkers, or it was just kind of assumed that you would get back as soon as possible?
You know what? No one ever told me anything. Yeah. So nobody, when I told them I was pregnant, obviously everybody was happy for me. No one ever said anything like, well, hurry back, certainly my husband didn't say anything like that to me. In fact, Peter was very, very supportive. He told me that maybe I should consider cutting back when I went back. So no one ever actually said anything to me. I think maybe a lot of that expectation, that pressure was just from myself, maybe.
Type A personality.
And just expectations. And like I said, I didn't want to be seen as, somebody who just left and didn't come back, or left and came back part-time, because also I was relatively new in the practice.
Okay, so you're trying to get your skills up, and then also at the same time trying to maintain the respect of your colleagues.
Exactly.
So now,
exactly.
Were you doing per diem at like a private practice, or were you with a hospital?
So I was actually So I was picking up shifts at Kaiser, so kind of a hospital-based clinic, and then I also was picking up shifts at a private practice up in Beverly Hills. So. I was kind of picking up shifts here and there, but, I wanted
Beverly Hills. What was that like?
Beverly Hills. It's great. I actually still work there. I still pick up, a day out there. It's good. I like it. The patients are a little bit different, compared to, Kaiser patients. Kaiser clinics are all over Southern California. Mm-hmm. And so, the patient population reflects their location, but it's nice. It's a nice clinic. Yeah. Nice hospital.
Now, when you decided that you were going to come back, you came back full time.
Yes.
What was the next step after that? Did you have, obviously you're back, you're working. Did you have any regret of, being back at work so soon? What happened afterwards?
I think at the time, I just didn't know any better. I think, like I said, there was that expectation. It was just pressure on myself. So at the time, I don't think I really knew better. Looking back, it was crazy. Yeah. Looking back, I felt, or I recognized that, things were crazy. I was always rushing. I felt like, I was waiting for the nanny to get to my house, and then I would rush to work. I would rush through my morning patients because lunchtime was my time. My 1 hour lunch was my time, where I had to eat lunch really quick and run errands, and then I would rush through my afternoon patients so I could get home to relieve the nanny.
Okay.
And then nanny would leave, and then Peter often would work late, and then I would start my quote unquote second job, right? And then, feed the baby, bath time and bedtime, and it would just, every day was that way. And then the weekends, Peter again was often working. He's anesthesia, and so I was just trying to get through the day. And I just remember that feeling, just trying to get through the day, like looking forward to nap time, looking forward to bedtime, so I could have a break.
Almost like Groundhog's Day, or just kind of being in a hamster, just kind of like, or being like a hamster stuck in the wheel, where you're just chasing, this, you're trying to get ahead, but you never actually will get ahead.
Yeah. And I remember a lot of times, I'd be like, is this it? Is this what I went through, all that schooling and all that training? Like, this is it. Right.
Was there a feeling of like, did you have despair, or did you kind of feel like, like there was more to life? Talk to us more about that, because I think that's really interesting. You're not the first guest who said that, they get to a certain point, they become an attending, family comes into play, whether you're a man or a woman, and then you kind of have this sensation or this feeling of, is this it? Is there more? Talk to us about that.
I don't know. I don't think it was despair necessarily, just because I didn't, Peter, my husband's the one who has dreams and vision. I don't think outside the box. That's actually not, what I would describe myself as. I'm very traditional. And so I don't think it was really despair, just because I didn't really think there was anything else really. It was just more, not shock, but maybe disappointment.
I think that's fair. Yeah. This is real talk. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's like kind of disappointment. Just like, really, this is my life. Like this is it. And there were moments, and I remember I'd crying to Peter, be like, this is it. Like, this is, I just felt, I guess disappointment, really. Just that this is how life is, and this is all it is. And I'm tired.
So it seems like did you hit a breaking point, or what happened that kind of changed your mind on things? Did you pivot? Take us through that.
Yeah. So you know what? I have to thank Peter for it, because like I said, I'm not a dreamer.
Peter's getting mad props in his interview.
He is. No, and and
is he sitting right behind you?
He is not. He's not. No, I really do have to thank him, because, like I said, I'm not a dreamer. I'm not, my baseline is not to think outside the box. So I kind of accepted my position. Like I said, it never really occurred to me to go part-time, honestly. Like I said, there were those pressures, but I think on top of that too, you go through schooling, all this time and all this, debt, and so for me, I guess the idea of going part-time was almost like a waste. I don't know. I think that's a terrible thing to say, but it really did,
But Dr. Chan, or, like we see that in business, right? Or we see that in tech startups, or we see that in other realms outside of medicine, and I guess, quote unquote, normal life, of people just kind of just deciding after a certain amount of years that they're going to change pace, and nobody asked them any questions. It's not a big deal. when they decide to pivot. So, it's just very interesting how we kind of look at things. And, I don't think you're the only one who feels that way. It's a lot of debt. It's a lot of investment. It's like 13 years, 14 years of being single-mindedness of purpose. And then to get to a point where you're just like, well, maybe it may not be as fulfilling as you thought it was initially.
So that's part of it. And then the other part of it too, when you actually look at logistically, like I said, Peter was very supportive, and he definitely brought it up. Like, you should think about going part-time. You're so tired. I'm crying. He's like, you should go part-time. And it's like, I can't. And it's like, why can't I? And I think also logistically, when you think about like a household, we're used to a certain income. He's working full-time. I was working full-time. And then we have a kid. And then now you're talking about like, oh, well, you should go part-time. And then for me, I felt like, well, then we'll take a financial hit there. And then this is at the same time, now we have a kid, and now the expenses are going up. And then, the thought of me now going that just didn't make sense to me,
Got you.
Right? Like logistically,
right?
Like, we're practical people. Like how's that going to work? Like, that's no. And so it just wasn't something that I even considered. And then it so happens that, Peter has acne. He has,
putting his business out
literally
there.
That's how it started. Yeah, I'm gonna put that out there, right? He has acne. He used to use Proactive, right, which everybody knows, and it just wasn't working for him anymore. It's just how just how the formulation of it works. Proactive doesn't work as we go older. It's too drying, and so he just saw his friend posting about Rodan+Fields on her Facebook page. And he reached out to her, and she told him that there was a business opportunity, and it was founded by the same doctors. And so, my husband does think outside the box. Okay. And he just kind of looked into it, and he saw it as a great business opportunity. And he was the one who signed up for this network marketing business.
So explain what network marketing is for people in the audience who don't know.
So network marketing is essentially, or direct marketing is another way to place it. Is basically that you're selling product, not from a brick and mortar store, but you are selling directly to your friends, your family, your network, right? So you become the distributor, and you are selling to your friends and family. And the other part of it too is that, if you have friends and family who are interested in also being a distributor or also having their own business, they can join you in business as well.
So pretty diametrically opposed to what you normally do on a daily basis, being an ophthalmologist. So how did that go down when he said that he was going to sign up?
Oh, he didn't even tell me he was going to sign up. He just did it.
Okay. Got you.
He just did it. And I find out one day that we're doing this. I basically got something in the mail, and I'm just like, what is this? And he told me what he had done. And I had the same reaction that a lot of people do. Like, you're crazy. Like, what is this? Because I think network marketing, it's often confused with like pyramid schemes and these scams. And I thought that
people think about Amway and all these different things, right?
Yeah, it's similar to that way. But network marketing, because you're selling a product, it's legal versus pyramid schemes. By definition, there's no product. It's just a transfer of money. That's very much illegal.
Bernie Madoff type stuff.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Gotcha.
And that's what everybody knows. Yeah. But that's what everybody thinks of. They're like, oh, this pyramid thing. Right. And they're two very different things. But I didn't really understand what it was. And so I basically told him I didn't want any part of it for a long time.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, I don't want any part of this. You're crazy. And you can
and you're on your own.
Yeah. And I told him that. And so I didn't have any part of it for about 6 months. So Peter.
So you went back to the normal rigmarole.
Oh yeah, I was working full time, and my husband Peter was just like, oh, you should look at this. No, thank you. And I continued working full time. We had our kid. I was running the rat race, just like you said. I was, always tired. And then about 6 months after he signed up, a couple things happened. I started using the product. It's actually good stuff. Like, I'm not selling it, but I don't want to sell it to you. This is not the point of this, but it's good stuff. It's the same doctors that Creative Proactive. So, it was good stuff. So I started using it. But then the other thing that happened was I met another girl who was in the business. Like I said, I told Peter when he told me, I shut him down. I didn't want any part of it. So I really didn't know anything about the business. And so I met this girl at a birthday party. Really cool. She's also a physician. She's actually infectious disease. And she had 2 kids at the time. She was pregnant with her third, and we're just chatting, like I never met this girl, but she was cool. And, I could see myself being friends with her. And it comes up that she's also doing Rodan+Fields. And it comes up that she's making 5 figures a month. Right? Doing this on the side. And she was still a full-time infectious disease doctor. Right? And so the light bulb goes off in my head. I'm like,
I guess that's my suspense music or my suspense noise right there.
Right? I mean, forget that Peter has been telling me to do this for 6 months, but this girl, is having success with it, and she's normal, and she's, kind, and not anything that I imagined. You have the preconception of network marketers, salespeople, none of those things. And I was like, oh. Like you avoid them like insurance agents and stuff, basically. Yeah, right? But she was nothing like that. And I remember leaving that party and I was asking Peter about it. I'm like, so what this Rodan+Fields thing that you're doing? Right? And he was like, what? Yeah, the stuff that you dissed me on before? Right? Yeah. And so I, like that week, I think, I was like, you know what? If this chick can do it, then I can, I should try. And I remember thinking, like, if she's making 5 figures, I don't need to make 5 figures. I can, a few grand would be great. Then maybe I could cut back a day, okay. Or maybe I could cut back a couple of days, or maybe I don't have to pick up that call or whatever, like you start thinking, right? And then, so that's how I started. It was really like, oh, why not? Let's just give this a try. Let's see. Again, I wasn't a big dreamer. Obviously, I was just like, oh, maybe I could, let's just give this a try. And that's how I started, honestly. And then fast forward, we got pregnant again, and 9 months later, we had our second child. And by that point, we were making that few grand where I was like, you know what, maybe I'll take the full 4 months maternity leave, because I have this additional income, and you know what, maybe I will just go back part-time. And and it actually kind of just happened because, one of my clinics basically told me like, oh yeah, we don't really need you as much anymore. And that's the thing with per diem is like, it's flexible, but it's also, not guaranteed. Reliable. Yeah. It's not guaranteed. And it happened. So I went on maternity leave and my boss emailed me, was like, look, we don't need you so many days anymore. We only need you, 1 or 2 days. And, I was like, sure. That's fine. And I think, had this happened maybe a couple years ago before Rodan+Fields, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I need to go and pick up some more shifts. I need to send out some emails. And I did do that actually. So that was my first gut reaction. I was like, oh no, now my hours got cut. I'm about to go on maternity leave. I really should start looking for another position. And I did do that for a day. And then I got back and I was like, wait a second. I have this other thing already. And why don't I just kind of focus on that, and I can grow that, while I'm on my maternity leave, or I can grow that, instead of going into the clinic. And that was the second light bulb that went off. Is there anything that any skills that you take from being an ophthalmologist, from working in the medical field, that kind of translate over into network marketing at all? Yeah. I think the whole idea of like diligence and persistence, I think it goes to any business, right? Like there's, the whole beauty of the network marketing is they don't expect you to be a business person. They don't expect you to have sales background. A lot of the people on my team, they're, stay-at-home moms, they're physicians, nurses, lawyers, they don't expect you to have that background. But I think what medicine has taught me is just to be persistent. Right? To kind of, things might get tough, you don't know everything. There's a steep learning curve to really get through that part of it. I think that has been helpful. Now, did you have any sense of almost like you're abandoning medicine by going into network marketing at all? Did you have that sense at all? Not really, because my goal never was to leave medicine. I right now, I don't expect I would ever leave medicine because I love what I do. again, we went through so much training and schooling, obviously I better love it to make it through. So I love what I do. But this just gives you flexibility. And I honestly think, when I think about it, the way things are set up now, I feel like I love it more now.
Okay.
With this network marketing on the side. And I think it's because, I can practice when and how I please. I'm not rushing around. I actually have time to talk with my patients because I don't have to be, rushing to do errands at lunchtime. I can, take the time. I'm more focused, both at work and at home. It just makes me happier and better. And I'm a better physician. I'm a better mother. I enjoy it more when you take out the rushing and when you take out the financial, I have to work. I have to make this money. I have to pick up this shift. No, I'm working because I want to. I'm picking up this shift because I want to. I don't have to.
That's a good answer. Peter, when we discussed how is he able to maintain being, a good husband, a father, a physician, and then also founder, CEO of a company, how is he able to balance that? And does he ever see himself transitioning completely away from medicine? He actually answered it the same way you did, which is, it actually helped him to really enjoy his practice because, he doesn't feel that stress to kind of take on additional shifts or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So he can really focus on what he does, when he's required to be at the hospital. And, that leads to my next question. And not that we should be really concerned about what others think, but when I'm sure you had to have brought this up to your colleagues, other attendings at work or even friends. What's been their opinion of what you've been doing? Has it been good? Has the feedback been bad, neutral?
You know what? It runs the gamut. I think everybody appreciates the end result, right? So everybody appreciates the idea of flexibility, of freedom, of going part-time. So I think everybody appreciates that. But you go into so how are you doing it? And then you bring up the network marketing. And so, yeah, some people are really interested. Obviously they're like, okay, well, if you can do it, then I can do it. And some people had the reaction that I had at the beginning, right? Like that's a scam. That's crazy, and
until you start making it rain on them, like,
yeah,
this right here, you know what I'm saying?
But it is something I had to get over. And right. I think it was something that, it was difficult at the beginning, to talk about it and to explain it. But again, but just like you said, once you have success with it and once, I was able to go part-time and that it is working for us, then obviously it's easier for me to talk about it and it's easier for me to deal with the negativity because now I have experience with it. But it did make it hard at the beginning. Yes.
Now, obviously you're midway through your arc, I guess, so to speak, as a network marketer or network. It's network marketing, right?
Yes.
Okay. As a network marketer, you're midway through this arc. You're seeing a lot of success. Do you see that? Is there room that this could maybe even completely eclipse what you do on the medical realm? Like, I know you still enjoy the work, but do you think maybe there's a possibility that this work on the side could be something that you may want to take on full time, or even just, from an income standpoint, just eclipse what you make as an ophthalmologist?
Oh, definitely.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. And that was where that second light bulb went off when I went, on maternity leave, that, I could either pick up more medical shifts or I could just devote a little bit more time to Rodan+Fields to grow that. So right now I can tell you what we make with Rodan+Fields is the same as what I make practicing
as an ophthalmologist. Really?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I make the same. And this is, 2 years into this business. And I can definitely see that it will, and it has been growing. So every month it grows. And so, yeah, in the foreseeable future, it will surpass my doctor income. And it can surpass it hugely because it can grow. This business is growing. And the beauty of it really is, like I said, right now I'm making the same, yet I don't have to go to the hospital. I don't have to go anywhere. I do this business from home next to my kids. And then even down the line, when the income grows, I will still be at home and I will still be next to my kids, right? Versus my doctor job, I'm a per diem. I get paid the same amount every hour. The only time I'll make more money is if I go in more, pick up more shifts, which
trading time for dollars.
Yep, which I don't want to do. And the network marketing it will grow, and I don't have to spend that time away. That's the beauty of it. That really is.
Now take us through, give us how does this work? How does this take us to a daily, what happens on a daily life schedule with Rodan+Fields? How do you do this? I think, it's one thing to say, okay, you do network marketing for Rodan+Fields, but I think, the audience and even me, what does that really mean? What does that entail?
Sure. Okay. So how I like to say it, so network marketing, Rodan+Fields, any other, network marketing, it is essentially your business. Okay. So it's probably easiest to think of it that way. What these companies have done is they have taken care of all the back end for you. So all the inventory, all the legal, all the stuff, website, all that stuff, right? All the setup stuff is all done for you. And so as a direct marketer, you can just focus on running the business, right? Talking to people and selling product and things like that. How you do it is really up to you, right? So I can talk you through my day, but it could be very different from, this person and that person, how they run the business. Okay. So for me, because I still do work, I have my kids, a lot of my business is done, online. I use social media, I use my phone, and that's how I communicate. I'm on the phone, I speak with people on the phone, I text message. So that's a lot of my business. And so my day looks like, I wake up, I tend to my baby. He's still nursing. So, I nurse. And during that time, I'm on the phone. I may be catching up on emails, text messaging people, checking my social media, posting a picture or two. And then I go about my day. I go to work, I run my errands. And throughout the day, if I have any customers, friends who have questions about, if they've bought product from me, they're interested in learning more about the product or interested in the business, I'll kind of sprinkle that throughout the day. And then I do set aside family time. So I pick up my daughter from preschool at 5 until they go to sleep at 8 or 9. That's family time. I do set that aside. And then at night again, I might be sending emails or putting in orders or training a team member, at night.
So this is hard work. I mean, it's good stuff, but this is you got to be diligent, like you said earlier.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got to be diligent. You put in the time, but like I said, the great thing is it's I don't have to be anywhere. It fits in, little snippets of time here and there. Let's be honest. I'm on social media anyways, right?
So you might as well be trying to make
chatting.
money.
Yeah, I'm chatting with my friends anyways on the phone, whether text message or whatever. So might as well, make a little money while you're doing it.
So let's say a doctor comes up to you and just says, Dr. Chan, I'm interested in what you said on the podcast. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in going into network marketing. Do you recommend that for me? And if so, what are some, positives? And obviously actually, let's just start with this. What are some mishaps that people make when they first start out that they can avoid?
You mean in network marketing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so the first thing I want to say is, so if someone were to come up to me and they're interested in the business, I tell people, it's definitely worth a try. Network marketing, it's definitely lucrative. You can definitely build a business.
It's funny you're saying that. I'm actually on the website right now trying to figure out how I could be down. I'm serious.
You can, I feel like anybody can do it, but it's not for everybody, right? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that, okay, you join me and you're going to do amazing. I never, we're physicians, we're realists. I would never promise that to anybody. But I think for somebody who is interested in having their own business, interested in something on the side, it's definitely something to look into. Okay. You need to at least look at it. Okay. Because as far as businesses go, there's a very low barrier to entry. Like when you're talking about starting your own practice or, getting your own business, like there's like tens of thousands in franchise fees, or, you take out a loan to set up a business, all that time and all that effort. Rodan+Fields, a lot of these network marketing, like I said, it's all set up for you. So it's like a turnkey business. Mm-hmm. Okay. You can just step in, and you can just start. So that's why I tell a lot of people, like, just try it, and especially with Rodan+Fields, I don't know about these others, there is an out, right? They always give you an out. You can return the stuff, you can step out, there's no penalty, which is great. So I always tell them, just try it. Okay. But it's not going to be for everybody. Like I said, there's a steep learning curve. There is some negativity associated with it. So you do have to be willing to navigate that stuff, and like with any business, there are ups and downs. Okay. So not forget network marketing, but just in business in general, right?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Right.
You have to put in some effort. There are ups and downs. You're going to run into things, and you need to be willing and able to deal with those things. Yeah. So just understanding all that aspect. But it's definitely worth a try, I think. Mishaps, things like that. I think, people who join and think it's going to be easy, who think, oh, it's really big. It's a pyramid scheme. This is going to be super easy. I'm going to make a lot of money right off the bat. No, that is not what this is, it is a business. You have to work it like a business,
Mm. And your name is attached to this. So there really is, your name is your word.
Yeah. Yeah. It is your own business. Yeah.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the interview. This has been going really good. So got some quick, fast questions that I want to ask you. You game?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do this. Don't worry. Just the first thing that comes to your mind, just answer it. I think you're going to kill it. So let's start with, what's the one thing that you want listeners to get from this podcast?
You just never know. Like I said, I was not looking for something, I thought that, working full time, rushing around with the kids, I thought that was what my life was going to be. And like I said, I'm thankful that my husband kind of took that leap and that I was willing to just give it a try. And now our lives are so much different than a couple years ago. And I'm so much happier. And I would have never, if it was left to me, like I said, I would have never taken that chance. And so you just never know, right? So much is possible. So just keep your mind open.
Love it. What's one thing the audience can expect from you in the next 5 years?
Oh, man. Like I said, I'm not expecting to leave medicine, so I would expect that I would still be practicing a few days a week. The network marketing business will have grown, so I'll be really enjoying that. I really will.
That's as truthful as you get. I love it.
Yeah, not just the income part of it, and that is great, but just the people, working with the people. Like I said, I have a team underneath me now, and it's growing day by day. So working with people, and that, what? I know this is supposed to be quick, but when you talk to a lot of people in medicine, I think there was a point in time where I thought I would do academic medicine. Most of you understand what that means, teaching and mentoring and working with the younger generation. I think that's, at least for me, that was like a ideal.
It's a noble thing to do.
Yeah. And especially when you're in training, you're like, oh, the attendings are so awesome and I want to be like them. And I want to, teach and impart my knowledge into these young people. But you quickly realize, academic medicine is a different beast.
And it's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, and it's not for everybody. And I learned, as I went through, that it wasn't for me. And so I gave that up, that, okay, then I guess I won't teach and I won't be dean. There was a minute where I thought I would be like a dean of a school or something like that. But now, having your own business, this network marketing, I am now leading a team of people. And granted, it's not a medical team, but it's a team of people who are building their businesses and it's trying to achieve their goals and their dreams. And so in a weird way, I did get my dream or my goal.
Absolutely.
to do that.
Absolutely.
It's kind of crazy.
It may not be how you initially envisioned it, but in a sense, you're actually doing everything that you've always wanted to do. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Well, knowing what you know now, if you had the opportunity to kind of go back in time and talk to yourself as a pre-med, what kind of advice would you have given yourself?
Oh, what would I say?
That's a good one, huh?
As a pre-med, you know what? As a pre-med, I don't know if I would have given myself different advice, but as a medical student,
okay.
Yes. Yes. So as a pre-med, as a pre-med, you're kind of like set, you're just trying to get into medical school, studying. So I would say study, keep on studying. You're doing everything right. But as a medical student, I think now you start to have options, right? You're trying to think about what type of medicine you want to go into, right? You're starting to think about your future a little bit more. And I would tell, med students to really think about not so much of what you want to do. Obviously, if you love OB-GYN or you love neurosurgery, go for it, right? Follow that passion. But you also want to think about what you want your life to look like, in 10, 15 years. And what's that called? Like reverse engineering your life, right? You think about the future of what you want and you build your life towards that goal,
I love that answer. That's a great answer. Right. And that end product may not be with you primarily just practicing, right?
Exactly.
It may be a hybrid or a combination of things.
Yeah. No, for some people, it's like, I want to be on call 24/7 in the OR. Awesome. Go for it. Right? Like that, if that's what you want your life to be in 15 years, but a lot of people aren't like that, and they want something else.
I definitely think the arena now, it's a lot easier to have that type of conversation nowadays. I think 10, 15 years ago, people would look at you crooked-eyed like, exactly. What are you talking about? Almost like the Stepford Wives, like, no, I don't want that life, but deep down they did, but they didn't want to admit it to other people, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really good advice to give to yourself as a med student. So then what about a life hack? Can you name any one life hack that you have that you use to make yourself more productive?
A life hack. I don't really think I have.
You can even say a nanny.
Yes, I highly recommend. I highly recommend help. Okay.
Right.
Yes. Okay. If you need help, ask for it.
Or don't even be afraid to go out and get it. And sometimes you may have to pay for it, but
exactly.
I agree with you. I think that, in terms of in terms of being productive, sometimes just having some assistance on the side may help you be able to kind of do all the things that you may want to do.
No, and yes. And thank you. So that's really good. So for example, when I had my first daughter, I had my nanny and she only worked during the times where I was at work, which was great, because that was obviously very helpful, but at the same time, it wasn't great for me. I actually didn't have time. That's why I was rushing around during lunch. But now, I have my nanny and there is some overlap. So I do ask her to stay, maybe she works when I'm not working, then I can go grocery shopping leisurely. I can, I can go to the bank and I'm not rushing around. So that, yes. So asking for help, not feeling guilty. I think that's a lot of it too. Not feeling guilty for asking for it. Because in the end, it does make you better, Yeah.
I appreciate your honesty on that answer. Seriously. And I think the audience will too. I love that answer. So my last question is not really a question. It's a sentence that I ask all my guests. And it's a sentence that says, I'm not just a doc, and it's a way to highlight the fact that you're a physician, but there are other things to you, that make up, who you are. So Dr. Chan, I present to you, I'm not just a doc, I'm a blank. And if you can finish that.
I'm not just a doc. I am a mother. I am a wife. And I am a business owner.
I love it. You can use Jay-Z's term and be like, I'm not a businessman. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Did you get that? You don't remember that? All right. Some of the audience, they may know where I got that from. So, but either way, I love the answers. Excellent. Well, Dr. Chan, this was an excellent interview. I really appreciate your honesty. I really appreciate you being open with us. And I just want to acknowledge you for, being willing to kind of take a different path and not being afraid to pivot, not being afraid to, kind of just go the non-traditional path. Because I think it's so easy, like you said, to kind of rush yourself back and put yourself under these pressures that we may feel at work or we just may feel internally. But I think your message is going to resonate very well with the audience. And I just want to acknowledge for what you're doing. I think what you're doing is amazing. And I just want to once again, thank you again for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Dr. Chan, we got to do it again. And I am going to look up how to be a network marketer myself because I'm trying to make that dollar bill. So. Okay. You've inspired me. So.
All right.
And that's a wrap. What'd y'all think about that one? That was a pretty good one. I enjoyed it. Definitely a pivot for me. Definitely something that you all are not used to getting on this show, living outside the box with network marketing. If you want to learn more about network marketing, please go to the show notes and click on the link for Dr. Chan's business. You can learn more about her business with Rodan+Fields. And also there is an email address if you want to reach out to her. She is open to you all contacting her for more information about this. And as always, I'm always open to feedback. I love the feedback. I love feedback. So please reach out to me. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or even email. All of those links are on the website. So please make sure to use one of them, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And as always, before we jet, remember, you only got one life. You might as well make it count and live outside the box.